What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel. I'm your host today, Dylan Clemons, and here with me is co-founder of Fantasy Six Pack and top 5 Fantasy Pros ranker, Joe Bond, and we are discussing his early look at his quarterback.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, Joe?
What's going on, man? Pretty good. Just ready to jump into this, man. It'll be football season before we know it.
I know we're having OTAs have started this week. I'm getting ready, man. I'm getting excited. Before we jump into the meat of the show, though, I'd like to remind you guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already. And then head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans and check out our monthly access plan. We have a 2-week free trial right now, so you have to just sign up to become an all-access member, and you get access to our award-winning rankings, draft cheat sheets, fantasy baseball rankings right now, the rest of Joe's rankings. And then you also get access to the Discord, and that's where you really make your money with fantasy DFS baseball right now with Dave, Eddie, Chris, Robin, plugging away at that. And you also get access to our DFS projections and stacking tool. So all that good stuff. And you get to try it for free for 2 weeks. So, Joe, without further ado, we just want to jump right into your top 10 quarterback rankings with who is your 10th quarterback.
All right. There we go. Mr. Kyler Murray. So, Kyler Murray, obviously, missed the bulk of last season with the injury. Came back. I mean, he played okay. Had some ups and downs. Wasn't quite the Kyler that we've seen in past years, obviously. But I think overall we saw good signs. He actually ran a lot more than I thought he was going to run last year. I did not expect him to have 244 rushing yards in just 8 games. I do think we see that go back up to seeing Kyler Murray. The numbers that we're used to seeing from him, but those are pretty good. And then you're adding on the fact that he's getting arguably one of the best receivers to come out of college in quite some time, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not going to hurt his stock at all. So I like the weapons that they have around Kyler. Obviously, Trey McBride as well came on real strong last year. Love that. So Kyler Murray sitting there at 10, and man, I'll be honest with you, I would not be one bit shocked if he finishes within the top 5. Like, he's got that upside for sure, but there's a lot of risk. There's obviously Kyler Murray just being Kyler Murray, and he's pretty inconsistent at times. Does have the rookie receiver, and you never know how that's going to work out. And then, injury always plays a factor with him because of the way he plays too. So there is risk there, but the upside is monumental.
Yeah, absolutely. The upside with the rushing is definitely tantalizing. But like you said, there is some downside to it as well with his injury history and him just pretty much, he's a small guy. He really is. But moving on, Joe, who do you have as your QB9?
Yeah, QB9 is Jordan Love. And man, if anybody had told you he was going to be falling inside the top 10 before last season, I would have laughed at you. There's no way in the world. The small sample sizes we saw from Jordan Love and, here and there games, when he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers was not too good. So Jordan Love came on last year. He started off hot, dude. He started off on fire. And then cooled off considerably, and it was like, all right, the league figured him out. Well, then he figured them back out, man. Like, he finished off as one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, man. So like, you're looking at weekly finishes from weeks 12, actually 11 on 9, 5, 7, 22, 16, 6, and 2, and then week 18 or whatever, 11th. Dude, I mean, he started off 3 and 6, mixed in, started falling into that like mid QB2 range a bunch. Wasn't really working out. It was kind of like, all right, I mean, that's kind of what we expected at best, right? Mid QB2 range from him. Dude, they turned it on and he really got going. And I really like Jordan Love's upside. He's a smart quarterback, and obviously the coaching staff there believes in him. And dude, they just have a bajillion weapons. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think any of them are like superstars, right? Like, there's no Devontae Adams on that team, but they're all good. Like,
Exactly.
he's got like 6 wide receiver twos. It's how
And
nuts
they
is that,
all
man?
they all fit in well in the offense too. In a
Yeah,
certain part, Christian Watson's the deep guy. You got Jaden Reed as kind of the intermediate route, and then you have Romeo Dobbs as the red zone threat. Then you have both those tight ends, man. Yeah, I really like the weapons for Jordan Love and the Packers as well. They're an interesting team, and he's an interesting guy heading into this season for sure.
yeah,
Now
absolutely.
looking at your QB8 here. This is someone who I personally am excited about, and we're hopefully looking for a bounce back season from this guy. Who is your QB8?
Joe Burrow. It's hard to go away from Cool Joe, man.
Yep.
Not to mention he's got the best name on this list, but no, in all
Love it.
seriousness, like when he is healthy, he's one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks in the league, right? You're only talking a handful of guys, and he's right in the conversation with every single one of them. We're talking the Pat Mahomes, right? Um, he's still gonna have Chase. For now, we've still got Higgins. And yeah, they've lost Mixon, but I think they're going to be just fine in that department as well. They brought in I'm blanking on the name right now. I don't know why,
Zach
but
Moss. They drafted Chase Brown last year, so they got a
yeah.
good.
So they'll be fine in that regards. I mean, when you have what one of the top 3 receivers in the league on your team. And then, Joe Burrow is obviously a stud when he's healthy. I think 8 is a very safe place to take Joe Burrow. I see the upside of taking a Kyler Murray ahead of him, even a Jordan Love. But look, when Joe Burrow's on, man, we know how good he can be. And he can be QB1 when he's on, right? You just have to hope that offensive line can keep him healthy, and that's the big if, man. Like, it has been a bumpy ride for him.
Yep, last year coming into the season injured with that calf injury just kind of ruined him early when he was playing, and then the season-ending injury happens. And yeah, absolutely. But yep, let's hope for a bounce back from Joe Burrow, and getting him at QB8. I really like that value. But looking at
I
your
thought I was getting him
QB,
at a value last year, and it
yeah,
sadly
I
did
hear you
not work.
there. Yep, agreed. Looking at your QB7, this is an interesting team as well, considering the lack of offseason moves. I would say they did. Who's your QB7, Joe?
Yeah, Dak Prescott. Look, not the sexiest name on the list. We know, highs and the lows with him, right? I mean, when he's bad, and that entire offense is bad. And, you know, you hear about it in the media a lot, right? Because
Absolutely.
they're, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, and they're supposed to be awesome all the time. I don't know why, but it is. Dak Prescott, man, when him and CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and them are cooking, dude, it is awesome to watch. And they led the league. I believe, if I'm remembering right, they led the league in offensive scoring last year. So you can't look at that and go, Dak Prescott can't be a top 10 quarterback. So that's where my head's at with Dak Prescott. Him and CeeDee Lamb. I mean, we're gonna see 165, 170 targets for CeeDee Lamb again.
Yeah,
Like, that's just what we're gonna get. Like, he's the alpha dog over there. They've got just ancillary pieces with him. Brandon Cooks is all right, but
we know who he
he's
is.
not.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he got like 57 passes last year and scored 7 touchdowns. That's how nuts that offense was. Tight end is good. The running back situation is the one thing, man, where I'm like, they've
Yep.
got to do something else, right? Like, they're not going to be able to rely on Zeke. And so, do they bring in, like a Jarrett McKinnon or something like that? I feel like we're going to see the Cowboys, make a splash with one of those, free agent running backs, just because Zeke is not the Zeke of old anymore.
Right.
He's a plotter. That's kind of what you're going to get. And so, this offense is good enough where Zeke can be, a decent fantasy threat, but he's going to be very touchdown dependent in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But, with that being said, like that doesn't help Dak, but I mean, Dak's just he's going to do what Dak Prescott does, and he's going to be, um, you know, highs and lows, right? And I mean, I believe if I'm looking at it right, he finished what QB4 last season, so this is a bit of a downgrade for him from where he finished
Yep.
last season.
Looks like
And
QB
I mean,
5 in points per game, but yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I mean, when you're missing Joe Burrow, right? A couple guys got injured that probably you could argue probably could have finished ahead of him. Um, it's just one of those things where I think that might have been his ceiling, so I'm not paying up for that.
Yeah, no, I get you totally there. And I think in drafts, I feel like Dak, I know it's early, it's May. Dak is still going pretty late right now. Like in the mock
Mhm.
draft we did, Joe, a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month now. I'm pretty sure I got him as QB 12 or somewhere near that. And to be honest with you, that seems like a steal for me with Dak. Um, who are you looking at for QB6, Joe? This one, looking at it, that you might get a lot of people upset here.
Anthony Richardson. Here's one of the guys who got hurt last season, who
Yep.
I argue probably could have finished a little bit ahead Dak if he had stayed on the trajectory he was going. But it's Anthony Richardson. I mean, how do you argue with what he did last year off his rookie year? Dude, I wanted nothing to do with this guy. I thought there's no way he's going to be able to come in and perform well. But, dude, this guy was fantasy gold for the few games he played. It's just unfortunate, right? Because he got injured like game 3, I think, came back and then got obviously knocked out for the year.
Yep.
But I mean his games, he was good, man. And like what was shocking was he was actually good passing. Like, too, like, it wasn't just his legs. I mean, his legs were a big part of it, don't get me wrong,
Right.
and, he was scoring touchdowns, rushing, and I mean, and that's huge, right? I mean, he scored 4 rushing touchdowns in what, 3.5 games? That's crazy.
It is.
So if you're gonna give me a guy who's gonna be able to do that now, Jonathan Taylor being healthy, you know, for the whole season, hopefully, will take away from some of that.
Yeah. They're going to
But
kind of eat into
it's
each
not
other.
like Zach Moss was a nobody, man. He was
Right.
good, and the offensive line in Indy is good. Michael Pittman and him clicked. I like the other pieces around them too. I just like you mentioned pre-show, right? My number 11, right? And right now is Jaden Daniels. And yes, you could push him all the way down to 15, 16, bump a bunch of guys up, and I wouldn't blink an eye, right? But right now, like, what do these rookie quarterbacks thrive at? Like, how do the rookie quarterbacks do well? These young guys do well before they can really get into the passing flow of things? It's with their legs. Anthony Richardson was that guy. I underestimated just how good it was going to be. I thought the turnovers were going to be a massive issue. He only had 1 pick in those games. Yes, short
That's
sample size,
impressive.
but
Yep.
1 pick, dude, I would have thought you would have seen a bunch more than that. And I mean, like, you're talking about he threw the ball 37 times in that first game against Jacksonville. That was the one game he had a pick. I mean, he's throwing 20, 25 times in against the Rams, 0 picks. It's not like he wasn't throwing the ball.
Yep.
He wasn't making mistakes, that's what you want to see. And so, given what he showed in the small sample size last year, throwing the ball, not turning it over, and the rushing ability, I really am excited to see what we can get from Anthony Richardson this year.
Yeah, the upside is absolutely massive for Anthony Richardson this season. That's absolutely true. Joe, we're jumping into your top 5 now. Who do you have as your QB5?
DJ Stroud, another guy who he bucked the trend of the Ohio State quarterbacks just sucking. And I was not here for it. So no, for real though, he was amazing. And all they did was go out and add Stephon Diggs. So I mean, let's be real. This could only get better, right?
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of talk in Dynasty right now where CJ Stroud is like the QB1. Careful. I'm not
That's
there yet.
tough,
I
yeah.
mean, Josh Allen and Hurts and Mahomes,
Mhm.
like, I get they're older, but QBs last a while. You know,
Yeah.
those elite quarterbacks, they're going to be around for a while. I'm not ready to vault Stroud above them, but all the intangibles are there with him. You know, he's not a big runner, but he can run, right? He's almost like, I don't know, maybe not like early years Aaron Rodgers, but like, you know, like he runs when
Yeah, I
he's
could
smart,
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? Like he gets himself out of trouble, right? But he doesn't rely on it. But he's got a cannon, dude, and he's got the weapons there to utilize it. CJ Stroud, I mean, the ceiling's the moon, dude. Like he's so good. And weapons galore. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, you know, Tank Dell. So many good pieces around him. So, and
Yep,
they brought in Mixon of all
yep,
people,
there
right?
is.
So
Yep,
like he
exactly.
now has a legit pass catching back. I mean, my God, dude, we could see 600 passing attempts from him. They may never run the ball.
Yep. Yeah, they are 100% setting CJ Stroud up for success, and they're going for it right now. And you absolutely love to see it. It was such an awesome accusation. Or I can't even say the word. Getting Stephon
Acquisition.
Diggs acquisition. Thank you. But yeah, great stuff there. Looking at your QB4, this guy could make a case for QB1,
Yeah.
perhaps. Joe got good
So I think the
weapons and
top
everything.
four is there's no
Interchangeable.
surprise here, right? We all know the top four.
Yep.
But Lamar Jackson sits at my number 4. Look, the fact of the matter is he is, sorry to say, he's the worst passer of the top 4. The legs carry him. But
Mm-hmm.
look, as good as Lamar was last year, MVP, he actually was part of the reason why I did not make the playoffs last year. He was a big reason. I started off hot. Let Lamar cooled off, and I
Yep.
like, yeah, my other player should have stepped up. By all means, I should have made some better moves, but Lamar was not good for like a good chunk of the middle of the season for
Mm-hmm.
fantasy. Now, he was good for his team. They were winning games, and look, I get it. You know, that's what he's there to do. He's not here to win us fantasy, but we are here to win you some fantasy championships. And I'm telling you right now, Lamar Jackson does not care about your league championship game. I'm looking at his game logs, right? And you're looking at game logs from 2023. And, you know, he started off, oh, it's not giving me what I want to see here. Sorry about that. I thought I had the right thing pulled up. Yeah, game logs here from 2023. We're looking at a finish, you know, so he started off kind of rocky, wasn't great against Houston, but 9-3, 4, 9-2, you know, mix in a 20 there. But then it was 28, 18, 16, a 4, and then a 14. Dude, those 5 weeks were brutal. I mean, the 4 was nice, but the 28 and the 18, I mean, the 28 was 12 points. The 18 was only 11 and a half.
Right.
Those were some bad weeks, man. And then, you know, after the bye week, he came on
Yeah.
strong again. He started running again, finished QB1 2 of the last 4 weeks. But at that point, I was already out of it. So he's just, unless he's running, you can't rely. And that's my problem with him, right? Is he relies so much on his legs that when he isn't running in the touchdowns, right? And I know, look, they got rid of the running backs, right? And so
Gus Edwards, yep. Brought
Gus
in Derrick
Edwards
Henry.
was getting so many of those like goal line touches that were just like, man, just please give one to Lamar. But like, you know, they were winning games. You clearly don't want to get your MVP quarterback hurt.
Yep.
I get it, but it sucked for fantasy. And I don't think that's going to change. I think you're going to get a lot of games like that where if he doesn't get a rushing touchdown, you're going to just be scratching your head like, what the hell happened?
Sure. And with Derrick Henry there, man, he's going to vulture some of those touchdowns too in
Oh,
Baltimore.
yeah, absolutely. I totally forgot about that, actually. It's almost worse.
I totally get why he's your fourth quarterback and not in
Nope.
the top three. Where are you going here with your QB3 here, Joe?
I mean, we know who they are, but it's a matter of which one's first. Pat Mahomes.
Ooh.
I love me some Pat Mahomes, man. And he's a great quarterback. Go win some Super Bowls. But fantasy, not quite there with the top two. Like he was amazing a couple of years ago with a cast of characters that we did not think he was going to be able to do it with.
Yep.
And outside of his boy Kelsey, aka Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Sorry, I had to. But I mean, in reality, though, man, like he's gonna throw for 4,000 yards, but they don't need him to throw. You know, now they've got a pretty good defense, right?
Yeah.
They don't need him to throw 50 touchdowns. I think he's gonna be better than last year. I think 27 was weird. Like that's like his second worst number. But I think we see him jump back into like the low to mid 30s for touchdowns. Pacheco's good, but we're also seeing Travis Kelce not be quite as dominant, right? I still think he is a dominant threat, right? We're also dealing with Rashee Rice nonsense. Who knows what's going on there? Everybody was excited about that. Yeah, they brought in Xavier Worthy, but
Hollywood Brown as well.
Can we really rely on that? Hollywood Brown, we know how hit or miss he is. It's still just like a mishmash of receivers that you're like, I don't like. I mean, look, at least he doesn't have MVS anymore, who's going to drop all the deep balls that you're like, oh my God, if only, right?
You're kind of replacing him with Hollywood Brown.
MVS just needs to pretend every game is the Super Bowl and like, because he catches all of those, right?
Yeah.
We have no idea why, but it seems to happen. But again, you know, what limits Mahomes from the other two here, we know who they are, just a matter of what order, is the rushing floor, right? His is a lot lower than the other two. They're going to run a lot more. They're going to run it for a lot more touchdowns. Mahomes will have these little gadget plays and just throw it off to the side to, McKinnon not there anymore, but you know what I mean, right? Like those guys,
whoever it is. Yep.
Kadarius Toney will be the hero randomly, right? Not there anymore either, but it's still like, you know what I mean? Like they just do these things where they just get out of Mahomes' hands and it's somebody else's touchdown instead. So it wins games. So we find
exactly. Yep. And the Rashee Rice thing is just kind of a killer for me. If he's suspended for a long period of time, man, that really taps into Mahomes' ceiling, I feel like, as well. But Joe, who do you have as your QB2?
QB2, Josh Allen. Last year's QB1. Josh Allen is amazing. Do not get me wrong, but the loss of Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
Yeah, they drafted a really good receiver, but he's raw, man. Let's be real. He's raw. He's a playmaker. They're trying to rebuild that receiving core. They lost Gabe Davis as well. Not that Gabe Davis always showed up every day, but
played a ton of snaps though, man.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to basically start from scratch with your receiving core with a guy like Josh Allen. Now, with that being said, maybe Josh Allen runs even more. I don't know. I know last year we were talking about how coming in, I think they were trying to make a concerted effort to not have him run as much.
Yeah, it didn't work.
But I don't think that worked. Clearly, things were not going as well there as everybody was hoping, and
on a turnover,
him and Diggs started falling off, and it really showed. And so Josh Allen kind of had to take off, a lot more than I think, at least me, expected. But that being said, Josh Allen is going to be fine. He's still going to throw for a ton of touchdowns because that's just who he is. but yes, expect the turnovers. I mean, 18 turnovers, 18 touchdowns, interceptions last year. Also had 7 fumbles, 13 the year before. That's what he's got to clean up. Like, you can have, double-digit interceptions. He's got to clean those fumbles up, man. Like, he's actually averaging. He's never had a season with less than 7 fumbles, and that was last year. Or no, sorry, he's never had a season with less than 7 fumbles, and he had 7 last year. He's had 8, 9, 13, and 14. He just hasn't lost all of them, thankfully, but he lost 4 last year. It's just crazy to me that he just loses the ball so often.
It's a lot of hero ball with Josh Allen, that's for sure. That's what got him in trouble.
But I mean, the rushing there, he drafted 500 rushing yards, but he still ran 111 times. He's going to run that often. I'm expecting 600 to 700 rushing yards again, especially because I think we're going to get more design runs for him again. He had 15 touchdowns, so that's helping. Even if we don't get that, I think QB2 is probably his floor, man.
Yeah,
you just love what you get from him.
I agree. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what he does with the hodgepodge of receivers with Khalil Shakur, Keon Coleman, like he alluded to, Dalton Kincaid at tight end, all them guys. So, Joe, why don't you go ahead?
I do like Kincaid.
What's that?
I do like Kincaid a lot, though.
I do.
Don't get me wrong.
I do too. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see
tight
where
end.
You have him ranked. Yep.
Yeah. So QB1, no surprise, Jalen Hurts,
Mr. Tush Push himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if it works, right? His center retired, so that's going to be a big loss there, but I think they'll be just fine. Look, I sort of had my reservations. I had him QB3 last year. I mean, he wasn't QB1, but he clearly proved me wrong with the rushing touchdowns. I didn't think that was repeatable, but I didn't think that this tush push thing was going to be, the brotherly love or whatever they're calling it, the brotherly, what is it?
Shove.
Shove. Yes.
Yep.
I didn't think that was going to be as big of a play as it was for them. And it's funny when you watch like other teams try it, like it doesn't work for them sometimes. Right. And so you're like, how? But yeah, I mean, his cast of his weapons is somehow even better again. They brought in Saquon. That's amazing for him. Saquon can catch 100 passes himself too. At least see 100 targets. You still got Devonta Smith. You still got AJ Brown. Goddard is there.
Yep.
The weapons are there, man. It'll be interesting to see if they still do the sneaks with him, especially with Saquon there, kind of a goal line guy who I think can get in the end zone. It will be interesting to see, but man, it's hard to argue from this guy who's now done it 2 years in a row. Just been pretty amazing.
And it felt like it was the down year for Jalen Hurts too. He was dinged up and everything, and like you said, Joe, he still finished as QB2. It's insane.
Well, yeah. I mean, it felt that way, right? Because the Eagles as a team just imploded.
Yeah, their offense was pretty crappy down the stretch. Yep.
But he was still getting it done, right? It didn't matter. He was still getting it done for them, mainly because of all his rushing touchdowns every single week. It was, you could count on 1 or 2 of those, and it was just like, oh my gosh, all right, fine. I mean, I'm looking at his weekly finishes, and the number of single-digit QB finishes for him is just insane. So yeah, just lock it in. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
agreed, man. Agreed.
All right.
This was a lot of fun, Joe. A lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the rest of the rankings. We're gonna go through running backs, wide receivers, tight ends as OTAs keep running through as well. Looking forward to that. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Head on over to allacessmedia.net/plans and become an All Access member and get that free 2-week trial. But Joe, you got anything else to add, or are we good to go to close it out?
No, that's it for me, man. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Joe.